right, Sports Talk Nation. Welcome back once again. It's your host, the G-Man, as we continue with our 2016 team-by-team NFL preview. Today we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears, and I'd love to tell you that the Monsters of the Midway will actually play like Monsters of the Midway, but I can't. I don't have a lot of faith in their prospects for this upcoming year. It all starts at the top with their quarterback and their head coach. I just don't love the coaching staff. I know he's established and he's been around a long time. I just don't have a ton of faith that he's the right guy. I mean, Fox manages to take a team to a certain level, and he might take this team higher than they are, but I just don't think he's the guy to take them over the top. And Jay Cutler, to me, he is the prime example of a quarterback who has proved that he's not the guy. I know they've always had offensive line trouble, but good offensive line, bad offensive line, great receivers, good running back. It doesn't seem to matter. He always winds up in that mid-tier wanting more. And that's probably because his physical tools are so incredible. He's like a Matt Stafford in that regard, right? Stafford has incredible tools, but the numbers just don't ever seem to bear it out. At least Cutler did go to the playoffs one time, but I just don't see it. I would not hitch my wagon to that star. I think the Bears would love to get out of that contract. All that said, I think their running game is going to be rough this year. Between Jeremy Langford and I guess a Jordan Howard and a Kadeem Carey, I think they'll be okay, but I think they're going to have to throw the ball, and they do have Alshon Jeffrey, Kevin White returning from injury, Eddie Royal in the slot. So I think there's the opportunity to improve, but this year just isn't the year. On the offensive line is what they did best. I think they signed Bobby Massey. They drafted Cody Whitehair. I think that's going to drastically improve their offensive line. But when you lose a guy like Martellus Bennett and Matt Forte in the backfield, who was Mr. Bear for years, that's going to hurt you. The Bears were smart to build up their defense because that's where they really, really struggled last year. They got a hell of a athletic linebacker in Danny Trevathan. They signed a defensive end that was flying up draft boards, and I'll be honest and say I don't know why, because I didn't love Leonard Floyd, but he seemed really, really popular and flew up draft boards, so they took him 9 overall. Hopefully he provides some of the pass rush that a guy like Shea McClellan was supposed to provide, but never managed to do that. They also struggled extremely in their defensive backfield, and they went pretty heavy on it in the draft. Again, I think the Bears did the right things. I think they saw where they were weak. They didn't reach for players, but they drafted positions of need, and they tried to fill in those gaps to try to make a quicker retool instead of a rebuild. I just don't believe that they have enough talent around them to do it. I'm calling for them to have another real rough season. I'm going to say 5-11. I do think the coaching staff makes it through the season despite a 5-11, but I do think they would love to get rid of Jay Cutler if that opportunity presents itself and pick up somebody to develop long-term, because I think they realize that they're only going to get to a certain level with him. So tough year in a tough division, 5-11. Do they have the chance to go as high as maybe 7-9? Sure they do. I think that division is so difficult because they all play each other so well despite the separation in talent in Minnesota and Green Bay. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to struggle. They're going to rise to the level of their talent. And unfortunately, that's only 5-11. So with your 2016 team-by-team preview of the Chicago Bears, as always, I'm your host, G-Man, and I am out.